All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Thank you all very much for being here this evening. I would invite you to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Thank you very much for being here this evening. I would invite you to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Just to make sure you said it correctly. Can I have more echo? Okay. All right. Everyone here. All right, this is an opportunity for those of you in the gallery to address the city council. Anybody like, or is there a sign up sheet before I get too far down this path? Bring it on over. Or pass it around, it's fine. Roberto. Looks like Melissa's up first. Make sure you introduce yourself and where you're from for the record.
Hi, my name is Melissa Cannell. I live in North Bonneville at 104 Pahatu Street, and I have a business here in Washington at the Chevron station here on 91 Northwest 2nd Street. I'm also the general manager of the fuel station as well as the roaster, and I run the entire business. So I'm here tonight to address some concerns, social media fodder, and rumors to clarify. Things have been going around town, and I just want to understand so that there's the truth and we can put things to rest. Mr. Rice, from what I understand and from what I've been told, you live in Vancouver and you are a city councilman here in Stevenson. And I don't understand how that works. And I would like to understand how that works. I'm a business owner. I spend a lot of money here and I just find it to be, it's taking my crop, to be honest with you. You don't shop here, you're not here, and you just show up on TV or hear the thing, and I'm very concerned about it, and so are many other people in the community. Thank you.
I'll come and talk to you because that is totally false. So I'll come and talk to you because
I'd rather it be in public.
it's time.
I know,
Yeah.
nothing personal.
Citizen comments.
It's just citizen comment only.
Yeah.
But thanks
Oh,
for
I
your
will come and talk to you. Thank you.
Kelly.
I'm Kelly O'Malley McKee. I'm the executive director for the Stevenson Downtown Association, our local Main Street program. And we are a volunteer-driven nonprofit that works to promote and revitalize downtown Stevenson and enrich our local heritage. I'm here regarding your search for your next city administrator. Since 2020, when I began my role as the executive director here for the Stevenson Downtown Association, I've collaborated and interfaced with leadership staff at the city of Stevenson on a regular basis. And across the state, there's 40 communities part of the Washington Main Street program. And in every single one of those communities, there's a partnership and a synergy, a really strong collaboration between the city staff and government and the Main Street organization. So I know you have lots and lots of considerations for when making your decision for the next city administrator. And I humbly ask you to also consider each candidate's experience with community partnerships, strong community partnerships. Our organization has collaborated with the city administrator and other key leadership staff on numerous initiatives over the last several years since I've been a part of this. Not just the Courthouse Plaza, we've worked on the Parking Advisory Committee together, the Spruce Up Stevenson Cleanup Days, the Farmers Market, the Streetery, ADA parking, downtown signage guidelines, community surveys, ongoing beautification efforts, business support, economic development, downtown buildings, murals, wayfinding signage, lighting, street planning, and so much more. Maintaining collaboration in our partnership in a non-competitive, mutually beneficial way is a true asset for our budget stretched community. It's the support of the city staff and you, of course, as council, and along with our community volunteer efforts, whose volunteer time equates over $250,000 invested over the last several years. That we are able to continue our work of enhancing the vitality of our beloved downtown. So thank you for considering our important partnership when deciding on your next city administrator.
Billy?
Rick Jessel, Stevenson. I was surprised with the $270,000 that were projected by the 0.3 tax increase only amounted to about 7% of what I believe to be the 3.8 total sewer and water budget. There could be more to the budget for sewer and water. It didn't make much of a dent. I was hoping for much more of a dent. It just goes to show how large the numbers are. So just wanted to make a comment that I was disappointed that we didn't make more of it. The 3.8. It's hard to read the budget. I was also, testified. I've looked at various issues, but I never really looked at the full budget of Stevenson, and that looks like 15.2 million or so. So that's a large amount. And the only thing I have to add is the Stevenson Municipal Code in the ordinance that was quoted is a typo. It's 12.70 and it's actually 07. Like Ben's already aware of that. So that's about it. It's certainly a lot of money, the 270,000. Thank you much. That I think it's y'all. Thank you.
Rick? Mary?
Good evening, Mary Ricard Stevenson. I get emotional about this with all the stuff that's been going on and people not feeling safe in their own communities. I want to read this into the record. I'm carrying this and it's getting a little bit straggled, but it's what you should do if ICE comes calling. I have been reading some of the reports about what's been going on in our country, and it is horrible, inhumane, and illegal. So this is what you say if ICE comes calling. You're gonna have to keep my glasses. I do not wish to speak with you, answer your questions, or sign or hand you any documents based on my Fifth Amendment rights under the United States Constitution. I do not give you permission to enter my home based on my Fourth Amendment rights under the United States Constitution, unless you have a warrant to enter signed by a judge or magistrate with my name on it that you slide under the door. I do not give you permission to search any of my belongings based on my Fourth Amendment rights. I choose to exercise my constitutional rights, as we all have the right to do. And if you know anyone who needs a card like this, let me know and we'll get it to them. But our country is in crisis and we should all stand up and be counted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anybody else? Anybody up there? Oh, righty. Thank you all. Changes to the agenda, well noted, or haven't been any since it was posted. Changes.
They are noted with the asterisks.
Very good.
On there. There was one change very late in the day today. There's consideration of a street closure, that doesn't appear on the agenda with,
Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to improve consent agenda items A through F.
Who? It was second by Michael. So, first and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We had at one point of discussion, do we at some point needed to have a discussion about providing a certain authorization for our city administrator to waive some of these fees rather than having to put them on the,
So do you want to address that, Ben? Did you hear the question?
Yes, I did hear the question. Water sewer billing policies and practices and expectations are in need of a full review, yes, and that would be part of the review. So with the real policy that you have for leak adjustments, where there's an identified leak and that's been fixed, that's the policy there says bring it to council, and the cap would be $1,000. So that's the tolerance that past councils have had, is that it's still up to you all as the budgeteers to authorize those, and that there's some damage limitation involved in that. Those decisions can be reconsidered, and decisions like this can be added to that.
Great question. Thanks, Ben. Sheriff's report.
You've been
Hey, Tracy.
providing documents for the month of February. If you have any questions that are related to those documents provided.
Well
I
done.
guess we'll get okay. All right. Thank you for your
anything you need to bring to us, Tracy?
Pardon?
Anything you need to bring to us?
Anything to bring you?
Yep.
No, you know, the water's calm right now, so. I didn't bring the orange or anything.
No, I was gonna say.
Don't look down on me. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. We also have a couple of presentations. We have some guests tonight. So first up, we have Lou from the Columbia Gorge Museum. So make sure you do a better job of introducing yourself than I did, and take it away.
Well, my name is Lou and I am from the Columbia Gorge Museum, so it sounds like a perfectly wonderful introduction, and thank you for it. I have gifts for everybody. What I did not want to do was do a PowerPoint, because then you would all fall asleep and I would be sad, and I don't want to be sad. And this is our biannual report, and I think it's really one
You're
of.
so brave. Look at
Thank you, thank you. I think it's one of the first that has come out for a long, long time. I'm not saying forever, but for a long, long time. But we have an incredible staff and we have an incredible venue, and I just want everybody in the whole wide world to know how great we are. There you go. So we wrote it down, and I have a few things. I know you. Here you go. What I also included in this kit, because I've been at the museum for 2 years, and my first few months, I had a lot of people pounding on my door. I mean, knocking politely on my door, and saying, "Hey, what's going on? Where is everything going? I'm hearing rumors." And I want to make sure that everyone knows that, you know, there's always going to be rumors, and you're always welcome to knock on my door, no matter how hard you choose to do it. But I want you to know that we really care about the objects that came to us. And in this paper that's inside your report are some photographs of the state of the collection when we first got there. You're going to see objects that have been rained on. I don't think it's a secret for anybody that we have a leaky ceiling. And we've been working on fixing the infrastructure of the building. Those infrastructure challenges have been going on for quite some time. And so it will take us a little bit of time to fix them, but we're doing it one thing at a time. Every time we get an opportunity to fix something, we do. You can see that we have little friends that have been in the museum, little mice carcasses, and a lot of rain that damaged a lot of the objects that we really care about. We hold the cultural patrimony of Stevenson and Skamania and also the rest of the gorge too. And we take that very, very seriously. 2 years ago, when I first started, our wonderful, beautiful, fabulous museum, and raise your hand if you've been there. Okay, raise your hand if you've been there in the last 5 years. Well, raise your hand if you've been there this year. See, and that's what happens. And I actually have had people in Stevenson say to me, I've always wondered what was in that glass building. I haven't been down there. It's Stevenson. So here's what I want to tell you. I get it. When this beautiful facility was built, there were objects put in cases and they did not move for 28 years. And when you're a member, when you pay money for a membership, which we depend on, which we're so excited to have, you come down and you can run tours because you've seen the place the same way over and over and over again. That it's not as exciting as we'd like it to be, so we decided to make any changes. There are so many objects that have been on a shelf, many of them getting rained on, most of them not being well taken care of, for 28 years. And they deserve their moment on display so people can learn about this area. And that's what we're doing. We're cleaning, we're restoring, and we're changing the exhibitions. When I got here in 2023, there were 32 active memberships at the museum, and now we have over 290. People are coming to see what's happening here. Well, guess what happens when they get to Stevenson? They go out to dinner. They stay at a hotel. We are tracking every single person. And thanks to the lovely grant that I have received, I have to report and tell you exactly how many people are coming in, which we are delighted to do. When you look at this annual report, there are some things I'd like you to see. The back of it on page 26 is visitor data. And even though one of the cruise ships went out of business, American Queen went out of business, leaving us a debt and also a dearth of people, even without the American Cruise Line, we increased the number of visitors to our museum by 6,000. And that's quite a bit. Okay, I'm really proud of that because we're doing programming and we're doing exhibitions that are bringing people from the greater area. And I hope enriching all of your life too. If you live in Stevenson, come have some fun at the museum. We're trying really hard to make it great for you. We also did a lot of research on how do people find out about us? And it isn't in print, sorry to say. It is in signage. So when you go across the Bridge of the Gods, what do you see now?
Yep.
Welcome, the Columbia Gorge Museum welcomes you to Stevenson, Washington. And the signs at the end of the bridge are being changed on Monday, the 24th to say museum that way and to point people in the right direction. On the Oregon side, those signs are already done. So we're pointing people to come to Stevenson and to come to the museum. Another thing I'm really excited about is on page 25, our in-kind donations. We don't have a big budget, folks. We're always working really, really hard to raise the money to do the things that we need to do. But what has been really fabulous is the number of people from this area that have stepped up and have helped us with some of the major issues that we have both outside and inside the building. Over $77,000 of in-kind donations last year. So yay, people of Stevenson, yay, people who are helping us to keep going and keep improving. I want you all to know that even though the outside of the museum looks a little empty, what we have done is what we could salvage, what we could save, we did. It's in storage, but what we couldn't, had to be removed because the EPA came on knocking on our door. And we were actually leaking into the river. We had to mitigate the issues that were happening for a long time out back. The objects that we have back there with the money that we raise is we're going to create a logging camp. And there'll be signage, it'll be a very didactic display, so people can understand what a logging camp might have looked like throughout the year. We're also doing a whole bunch of different programming, and economically, lumber and logging was a real builder for this area. So we're planning an event where you can, it's a family event, dig your, you can dig it is the name of it. And we're gonna have large equipment, and you and your kids, you don't need a kid, you can just come on your own, can work with some large equipment and have some fun with that, learn a little bit about how logging camp is. But I also want to say, for the record, women who are also loggers, I know, and also worked in that industry, I know, but their industries are a little underrepresented at the Columbia Gorge Museum. And guess what we found out? We found out that lace making, for one thing, quilt making, women's, fiber arts was an economic driver in this county. Yeah, because they made the quilts, they made the lace, they sold it, they brought income into their family. It's underrepresented, except in our collection. In our collection are boxes of historic lace, boxes of their spinning wheels, there are sewing machines, there are so many wonderful things that represent that segment of the population. So expect to see some of that. And I hope you're all down there to see what that looks like too, okay? Because your grandparents worked in those industries. So this museum is really, I'm really excited to be here. Who doesn't want to work in a town where Santa Claus is the mayor, right? I remember the first time I drove right through town, and the signage and how beautiful downtown was very impressive to me. I will not forget it. I'm delighted to be here. I'm humbled to be here, and I'm so happy to be working at the Columbia Gorge Museum. Please come and see it. All right?
Well done.
Thank you.
We're lucky to have you.
For me?
Don't plug it in.
Well, we already had it.
I know, but no. How'd it go? How was everything?
It was a little under visited. We had a low ticket sales. However, we made the same amount of money. So the few people that came supported us very, very well. I want to thank them. We're gonna let you know earlier, like, get ready, put your dance shoes on for next year.
There.
I have
Sure.
a question.
Yes.
You were talking about logging and the history, and I thought you were gonna say that you discovered that women had been involved in logging and stuff. And have you found, I'm not trying to be funny here, but have you found any evidence that women were out helping with logging?
Yes.
And I guess to be fair, I also have to ask if you found any evidence that the men were doing some of the lacing too, otherwise.
Yes, and both
Okay.
So we had an exhibition last year of one of our local women loggers. Yes, we did. And so that was when we had our Broughton Bloom exhibition. And so, yeah, it'll come back again at some point in the future, I promise, because women deserve that. But yes, there is a very big history of men involved in making lace, because men who needed to bring money into for the family and couldn't go out and do physical work for whatever reason would take to lace making. There's a long history of it, starting with the potato famine in Ireland. So those skills came to this part of the world. Yay! Anybody have any other questions? Come knock on my door.
Are you gonna do the mushroom festival again?
Yeah, you know what? So the Mushroom Festival wasn't our idea. I have to say, like, this town is filled with some of the most wonderful creative people. So Tabitha down at Traverse, that was her idea, and we partnered with them because we want her to succeed. And in doing that, we also partnered with the Gifford Pinchot National Forest. And in partnering in those ways, which is my favorite thing to do, the network and the news just flies out the door and it's a lot of free advertising. So yes, thank you for asking that question. September Mushroom Festival.
Thank you.
Anything else? No, he's not.
Very good. All right, next up, we have Vicky Westling from American Red Cross. What?
We haven't heard from her this evening and we don't show that she's online.
Oh. Because I was scanning the crowd. So there is a request to sign or to approve we have our proclamation. So, census?
Yes.
Red Cross Month.
Where I'm gonna count the businesses that we're.
Well,
actually-
Vicky was going to
Vicky.
talk about the Red Cross and ask us to sign a proclamation regarding Red Cross Month this month.
Yeah.
So would entertain just a yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll put that in the signing pile. All right, yes, we are now down to council business. Ben?
Getting the screens up, okay. Council business first is presentation of an ordinance to impose the 0.3% sales tax. This is the one that you all proposed to the voters of Stevenson at the February election. The voters of Stevenson said, yes, you can impose that. Before it is imposed, the city council has to take action to do so. So the ordinance is there for you to review. There are 4 sections to that. There is some cleanup to do with one of those sections when it talks about how the fund is used. So the 4 sections impose the tax. They limit collection to a 10-year period unless those are renewed. Clarify the taxes in addition to other taxes in the city, and then limit the use to the uses you previously prescribed. In limiting that use, the typo here is related to a typo in the municipal code, where the transportation benefit district is codified at 240 or 1240 of the municipal code. The first section of that says 1240. The following section says 1270. The following section says 1270. The following section says 1207. So we will get that fixed. We've discovered that as a result of that. We will get that fixed with the codifiers. And so the appropriate reference here is not 1270.040, it's 1240.040. Choose to pass it. It's just error. The timeline of this, city council's adoption is relevant to when the taxes will be collected. Department of Revenue collects and remits taxes on our behalf, and then remits taxes to us. And so they only change their taxation rates on the 1st of the year, the 1st of April, and the 1st of July. And they need a lead up time so they can tell all the tax needs that they need to start collecting and remitting different tax to them. So 75 days in advance of July 1st puts us at the date of the next council meeting. So if you're desiring to collect any revenue from this year, you'll either need to pass it at tonight's meeting or add it to a special meeting to give us time to.
Go ahead, Beth.
I have a question. I think, so we tentatively have a special meeting scheduled for April 3rd. Is that right? Or? Okay, so we had to have time. Yeah, and thank you for the phone call today. Yeah, and I think we talked about this was the first step. A second part of this is the council earmarking where the funds go, the additional funds go. And so what I'm wondering, I know this is the first reading and we have a second reading that hopefully then could happen on April 3rd. What I'm wondering if we can get that nailed down too, where the intent of the council's intent on the whole reason for this is nailed down, which is to lower utility rates, and then we could just vote on everything all at once in one package at the next,
Like I say,
April 3rd meeting.
as I understand it, as a point of order, that what we're discussing right at the moment is authorizing the ordinance. That we would, discussion of how we make the allocations would be a separate discussion.
Yeah, and I'm proposing that we have those at the same meeting. That we discuss both. I mean, this could be put off if the council chooses to the April 3rd meeting, and then we discuss both, and we can vote, have two separate motions. But we look at the totality of the issue in one meeting, is what I was proposing.
All right, so we do have an opportunity to discuss this. So if you feel, it'd be a great time to start the discussion instead of tabling it.
Oh, yeah, and I don't want to put up the
Forthwith.
discussion. Just proposing that we actually vote on it at the second reading.
So Ben, you were saying that because the way the rates were planned or plotted, that there wasn't expected to be any revenue till 2026.
Wasn't expected to be any revenue until 2026, correct?
And then those funds would be towards lowering the projected rate hikes. So they wouldn't be as much.
The rate schedules that you've adopted, I include a reference in the next memo where when the tax goes into effect, the 7% increase for water rates goes down to 5.5% this year. The 3.5% increase for sewer rates in 26, 27, and 28 goes down to 3% based on this collection.
I guess what I'm trying to back into here is that if we can get this done so that the money starts to come in July 1st, this revenue was unexpected compared to what you have laid out for us. So rates will go down.
Rates will go down this year for water once we impose the tax. Rates will go. The rate of increase will not be as steep for sewer next year, and then of course water won't be as steep either, and that's compounded based on the lesser amount this year. So we partially relevant to this. We are engaging with the rate setting firm to look at this revenue coming in this year, if that's when the revenue comes in this year, to look at the revenue that you devoted to the sewer department for the ARPA funds, because that wasn't part of the calculation before, and then present some other scenarios to provide a bigger benefit to the residents with these revenues. So right now, the way that reduction from 7% to 5.5% is split, it applies equally across all rate categories, across all rate factors. So 7% to 5.5% for residents, 7.5% to 5.5% for the biggest commercial customer that we have, 7% to 5.5% for the usage amount when you go over your 400 cubic foot allotment. So be able to present to you something that would still reduce the rate from the 7 for those larger customers for the usage, to see if you could push that over to the sewer side to get a bigger bang for those residential sewer customers that were the voters for this, because that 0.5%, as we see, is not a lot. So looking into that, we'll be able to, if this tax is imposed this year, that's another factor for them to say your rates may be different, your collection needs may be different.
So I just wanted to kind of underscore the importance of getting this passed by, well, no later than the special meeting on the 3rd. Thoughts?
You gonna go around the table or?
Want to go around the mic?
My thoughts are it was approved by the vote, and that was the whole point of this, and figuring out exactly the percentages of what we do is what is the job going forward, but I don't have any problem with voting on it, so.
I have no problem with the actual tax itself. The concern I have is the mechanisms we put in place in order to determine how those affect our general fund. If we put this in place this year and we start receiving those funds July 1, and that's an unexpected revenue, do the offsetting general fund monies that come back into the general fund from the sewer fund, or excuse me, from the street fund, where did those revenues go? I have that concern. I don't feel like it should just go into the general fund and we can be using that for anything else. That should be addressed specifically back to the sewer fund. So, in other words, you're not going to do additional street projects or things because we got this windfall. That's money that's set aside. And the issue with that is as we move forward and we have everything based on a $270,000 a year revenue stream coming in. If we have overages, where do those funds sit for those overages? And then on a lean year where we have less than 270 come in, do we stick with our plan, the 10-year plan that we have, based on $270,000 a year revenue, even though we don't bring that in? Do we make that up with general fund money? And within that general fund, is the overage from, say, a previous year available to apply to that? So that's where I'm at with this. So the mechanisms of how we get there, I want to make sure we're very clear on.
And that's going to be, these are all things that we'll be talking about at the workshop on the 3rd.
No, there's an agenda item for these tonight and the anticipation that would continue until the next meeting.
The third.
No, next regular.
I don't want, I'll wait.
April 17th.
So that's what my concerns are right now.
Okay. So we have 2 points of discussion here, approving the tax, and then moving on to the machinations that you are all weighing in on. We got.
That would be my same concern that we actually have a vote referendum from the public to pass the actual tax. We have the provisions for in our ordinance here for writing up that, accepting those revenues, that we authorize accepting the tax. That we have, like you say, we have a whole bunch of discussion probably to have on how we're going to facilitate getting reimbursements to sewer and so forth. The one clarification that I would kind of like to make that might be along the lines of what Rick was suggesting about the amounts involved in the reimbursements to the sewer fund. In setting up the transportation benefit district, revenues coming from that tax should be going directly to a line item for that transportation benefit district. So what's going to happen is we're going to have to decide what amounts are going to be used from the general fund to facilitate street improvements and things like that. Right now, we're spending anywhere around $420,000 to $480,000 out of the general fund, or in addition to the other tax revenues that we get for streets and so forth. If we get this money coming in from this particular revenue stream, That's my understanding. Ben, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably gonna have to go directly to a line item that is expressly transportation benefit. But so that money goes there. So it's a matter of how much we want to subsidize that for street improvements out of the general fund. And the money that we will not be taking out of the general fund in the future is what we can use to allocate for sewer. So whether we do a single line item, budget item each year to say we're gonna commit because of what we've committed to the public on, one line item for 270,000 to come out of general budget to go toward the sewer. That's money that would not be taken out of the general budget anymore for the street improvements, if that makes sense. So the ordinance, so it has a responsibility under the Constitution of the State of Washington for improvement and maintenance, protection, and operation of public ways. And then the municipal code that we have that's referenced as an authorization for writing this up also indicates to be used for transportation improvements that preserve, maintain, and operate the existing transportation infrastructure of the city, consistent with the requirements of RCW Chapter 36-73. Does not include any language at all about reimbursing sewer. That's strictly a promise that we made on our proposition that the money would be used for street repairs, pedestrian safety, snow plowing, reduced sewer utility rates. That money is going to have to come out of the general fund. So we're going to have to decide how we want to allocate that money based upon the money we no longer spending for street improvements. So my way of thinking is we should probably go ahead and authorize at least the ordinance and have the discussion about how we're going to, the machinations of it in our next meeting.
The voters approved the ordinance, but the tax, and so I don't see any reason not to approve the ordinance at this time.
I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve an ordinance enacting a new section 3.08.032 to the Stevenson Municipal Code, imposing an additional sales tax and use tax of 0.3% within the boundaries of the Stevenson Transportation Benefit District, as authorized by RCW 36.73.065, RCW 82.14.0455, and the voters of Stevenson.
First and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, I have a question. I just want to clarify one thing. In our earlier discussions all last year, right, we're in agreement that this was put on the ballot in order to use the revenue. The revenue would go into the street fund, transportation improvement district, and then the money that we were putting in that from the general fund, we would not put in, and we would instead put that exact amount of money into the lower utility rate. So are we all in agreement that that's been the discussion? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy to support it tonight, given that we've all agreed that's what the intent was. I think there was a lot of confusion. My concern was some of the literature we put out was pretty confusing to the public, where they thought they were getting both. And when in fact, it was never our intent to get both. Our intent was to lower the utility rates. So anyway, but since I'll take it operate on faith that we all know what we're intending to do in the future. And I'll support this motion.
All fair side?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, so, perfect, that's good. We get that moving. So then we'll just pick a date for the workshop. Workshop.
Caroline?
Still talking about the mechanisms for the tax tonight.
Okay, carry on.
Okay, so there's another memo there for you to review, and I think this is trying to think about how to make this happen, how to bring in this new revenue stream and be sure that revenue stream goes to offsetting the sewer rates. So This is the first time the city has raised sales tax in 13 years. The last time we did that was in 2012. We started collecting revenues in the middle of that year also in 2012. That was a councilmanic action to increase the sales tax there. That means the city council had the authority to impose that tax without going to the voters, and they did impose that tax. The authorization for the tax there is, and this is a footnote in the memo, provides that the city can implement a tax, the county can implement the same tax. If either doesn't implement the tax, then the other will collect a full 0.5%. If both implement the tax, then there's a tax sharing that's involved in it, and that tax sharing is 0.425 comes to the city and 0.075 goes to Skamania County. So I think the Skamania County passed theirs earlier in the year, or maybe at the end of the previous year. So their elections may have begun after the end of the first quarter. So they got that full 5%. Since then, they've only been, or 5%, 0.5%. Since then, they've been getting the lesser amount. And one of the reasons why I'm kind of bringing it up here is because when we're looking at that full tax collection, when the state remits us that tax, it's a single line item that says this is your sales tax, the first half and the second half. As we've always processed this in the way we account for it, 50% of the tax goes to the general fund directly, and 50% of that tax goes to the street fund directly. So where the tax was adopted in order to stabilize the general fund and the street fund there. And actually a little bit more than that tax is collecting, because instead of getting 0.425 for that proportion of it, the street fund is getting full half of that, as if it were the same. I'm not sure that I'm explaining that correctly. So we're treating it as if it's a full percent and we're splitting it up. It's actually 0.925 and we're splitting it up that way. It's probably not important, but the high level there is that we're used to sending money to the street funds, and we do that on basis of this tax, and that's set up to fund the street fund. We're used to doing transfers out of the general fund over the course of the year or at the start of the year to make sure that that street fund is balanced. And so we're used to this understanding that the general fund is subsidizing the street fund. It's actually been subsidizing just a little bit more based on this tax, based on the way this tax is allocated. The numbers there, for some reason, each year it's not exactly 50%, but it never varies by more than 1%. I can't understand why it would have been different each in the different years, but the mechanism, like I said, the state remits us that funding. It comes in as a single line item. When it gets accounted for or coded, half of it goes to general fund, half goes to street fund, and that's the way that one works. And so when we're talking about changing that with this tax, the 0.3 collected from this tax, it will come in as a separate line item, and that'll go directly to a transportation benefit district fund that we need to create as part of this. And then you'll have that 0.3 that we can allocate elsewhere from the other line item from the state. So that's what you can choose to direct directly to the water sewer funds instead of the street funds as you have been. So the historic uses are there, or the way it's been allocated in the past are there. Let's note that you'll have to create something new is there. There's time for us to review this. This is just given the basis of understanding there for how this money comes in and where it goes once it comes in. It'll be a little bit different. The budgeting and the actuals here, I also put, so for the way taxes have been budgeted before, the high level point that I want to show you on this is that we typically budget You asked us to be conservative in the way we budget. Where you are conservative in the way you budget is to underestimate revenues and overestimate expenses. That's how you're conservative in the way you budget. With the actual budgeting that occurs year to year for streets and general fund, you can see which one you can be more conservative with and which one you have to be a little tighter with. So we know that we're splitting that general or that tax, that sales and use tax between those two funds 50-50. But the budgeting amount doesn't always show a 50-50 split of that. You're able to be more conservative with the general fund and make sure that that fund balances than you are able to be with this street fund and how that balances. So that's the high level in that we are then budgeting for new revenues from the new tax, or we'll add that to the budget with the budget amendment when we do that for about 135,000 to do it. That's not being very conservative, which is a point I'll get to a little bit later. The actual tax collections there, of course, are a little bit different. And this is where you can compare how conservative we were in underestimating those revenues versus the actuals at the end of the year. So, for example, the highest collection year, 2023, we actually collected 451,000 in sales and use tax. That one, I picked the wrong, 2023, we actually collected 450,000. We, at the start of the year, budgeted 358,000. So it varies from what we budget. When we're conservative, it shows. 2024, we undershot expectations. 2025, then the budgeted amount is a little bit less. So that undershooting is one that I want to kind of hit on, because if you look at that graph at the bottom of the second page, it's showing that there's a little bit of hope. And so when we're talking about the new sales and use tax, we based that $270,000 a year at the height of the bubble that we see. So there's some concern that it won't bring in 270 for at least this interim period. Maybe at the end of the 10 years, things start to come back to that, but there is some concern there. So this conversation that I want to be able to have with you is related to if we collect less and related to if we collect more too. Both of those are very real possibilities.
I just have a question. I always, look, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I mean, I'm wrong a lot. Sometimes people say I don't even know where I live, so I don't always get it right. So, but the 270 figure was just an example. That's just what we estimated. It's just an estimate on our part, right? We didn't, that tax proposal didn't commit. Well, we will bring this. We just said based on prior data, this is what we think we'll bring in. Now, I'm not wrong on that.
Not wrong on that, but with so the next bullet point here is talking about the water and sewer rates. You have done a long-term rate analysis, and with that, you've projected out what you need to collect in order to pay our debts, in order to pay for the production of water, the treatment of waste, and capital improvements related to those systems. And so you projected that out and said, we need to collect that. We're going to collect this portion from our rates.
And the other portion from the 270.
270. And so there's no conservative budgeting in that 270. It's we're guessing high on this. So
to his point earlier, and now with my question, is to his point earlier, I kind of reading between the lines, I think you're suggesting just be conservative in your budget. We might assume a smaller amount, but if we have a mechanism for preserving those funds and keeping it clear, well, then we can, when we know we're right.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that ship sailed when you adopted the rate structure. That ship sailed because you already set it up as we're collecting 270 if this tax is passed.
That's the revenue stream we have set for the 10-year period. Yes.
Okay, so that figure wasn't just an estimate. We made a commitment on that figure, is what you're saying.
That was what.
Okay, that's what I'm
If you want to look
That's
at
what those rates were based on.
One at a time.
Revenues.
Okay, I'm done with my question.
Yes.
So I hit on this and the impact.
Hang on, Ben, I want to get, check a second.
Well, I don't know if it's that big of an issue, but I just wanted to point out that the proposition was actually written up where it said, sales tax rate within the Stevenson Transportation Benefit District ending after 10 years generating approximately 270,000 a year. So there was no express commitment for an exact amount, but that's the way the proposition was written for the ballot.
And that's correct, Chuck, but
Yeah.
the way that we set up the rate structure.
Yes,
The rate structure is
that's
based
correct.
on a $270,000 revenue stream each year.
That's correct.
All right. And go.
Yeah, and go. So I already described some of that rate structure and what it did, but it does count on that, 270,000 from, the tax, for the general fund, if we put it that way, $270,000 from the general fund, so that we don't have to draw that out of our users. So it's a hard needle to thread, the way everything's been set up with this, with the rates. Again, hopefully when we look at it, some things change based on your ARPA commitments, based on being able to collect sooner in the year to pay off those big debts when we hit them. I think everyone remembers that wall of debt that we end up slamming into next year. So if we've put some steps, stair steps, to help us climb that cliff, we will know that as a result of our relook at the rate structure. The way we can transfer this money from the general fund into the water sewer fund, we can either do that at the start of the year and transfer in that $270,000 that we're relying on to keep those rates whole at the start of the year. Or we can provide a monthly allocation similar to the way we do that for streets right now, where the tax remittance comes in from the State Department of Revenue, and we can split off and say 70% of that goes to the general fund. Half of that goes to the general fund, 20% still goes to street fund, 30% goes to water sewer fund. And let the water sewer fund go up and down with as the market goes up and down. So in both of these scenarios, we can evaluate and monitor and adjust as the year goes by. And in both those scenarios, you will monitor and adjust as the year goes by. But the basis, this starting point, is where we really want to get to. On the final page, I've got just those 4 quadrants, some impacts to the different funds, depending on how you do it and depending on whether those collections are higher or lower. The initial transfer in puts the risk on the general fund. If the collections are less and it provides greater flexibility for the general fund, collections are more. And so that's where you can achieve getting to that point where all the revenue collected from the transportation benefit district is realized by the water sewer fund, but they would take adaptive management of your budget and transfers it through the course of the year to get there. But you would have the flexibility there. If you allocate it across the board monthly, all the funds benefit or suffer the same. All your funds ride the market the way the market is. So none of those are the best options for a conservative view focused only on that water sewer fund would have you transferring the money right away at the start of the year, because if there's a shortfall, it's there, and it's not going to have a rate impact to the people. Can't really recommend that directly because all those funds are important and because the point of this was to bring money into the water sewer fund, reduce the rates. So go ahead.
Question. Are the reserves in the general fund substantial enough to withstand the ebb and flow? For at least one calendar year if we were to budget?
Yes.
Okay, so really, the general fund is the one that's gonna have to take the brunt of the up and down if we're gonna commit to 270 to water sewer. And we can't take money out of the transportation benefit. So it's just a matter of how much we're going to be able to subsidize the transportation benefit district to do street improvements, whether we have enough to do a full, support out of the general fund or not. Okay, so if we were to budget the whole 270 at the beginning of the year for the street and sewer, for the sewer and water, and money coming in, revenues coming in for that extra 0.3% are going directly to the transportation benefit district. We don't touch that anyway, so it's just a matter of what money's going to be. We feel comfortable allocating from the general fund to subsidize the streets.
And the general fund is subsidized.
Streets.
Yeah.
So, but it works both ways, because if the
Yes, right, because the amount we're not putting in is.
exactly. So if the revenues exceed the $270,000, that money is going to stay in that transportation benefit district. But what it means is we don't have to allocate that much money from the general fund to subsidize it.
Pull it back up.
So we're not going to be transferring any money in or out of that particular fund per se.
Yes, but you'll be pulling additional general fund out
If it falls below,
if it goes above.
not if it goes above.
Absolutely.
If it goes above, then you don't have to allocate that
As much.
that's as much from the general fund.
Right, so you're pulling general fund money back.
Yeah, you're pulling it back into the general fund.
Yes.
Which will be allocated to that, yeah.
Which
that
would be allocated back
the
to the sewer fund.
Right.
Yes.
I think
that's-
we're all
if
agreeing
that's-
on the end game,
If that's what you wanted to do.
the middle
How
of
many
the
shells in which direction?
Yeah. which method to use, but the idea is that all of those funds,
Go for it.
Okay, I don't know, I haven't studied this, and I think this came into the packet today, or I think you mentioned this here. Was this sheet we're looking at, been there a couple days and I just missed it, okay, I just missed it. But basically, there's a lot of minutia and a lot of details there, right? And what I always hear, the council should take the 30,000 foot view. So where I'm at on this is, I really don't care how it's done. I'm flexible. I'm not gonna get said, oh, do it this way or do it that, because I'm not gonna come in and say to the staff, who is paid to figure all this out, oh, you're off here, you're off there, because I'd have to come down here and live here practically to figure all this out. But what I'm comfortable with the fact, as long as we're all in agreement that every penny that comes in on this new tax ends up at some point, however we account for that, to lower the rates, because that was what we've been talking about. And so, and sure, maybe the council has to sign off the exact mechanism. I'm just saying, that I, as one person, don't care how it's done, as long as we live by what we've been talking about since last year. I'm flexible, and whatever you guys, I'll agree to anything that accomplishes that objective.
now, sorry.
No, the only bone of contention probably is going to be the issue of a surplus,
Yeah, and I would.
because
Hang on.
so, yeah, that would be the only, I think we're pretty much in agreement on the mechanisms of everything else. If there's a surplus, it would be your desire that any surplus be an additional amount coming out of general fund to go towards sewer and water, right?
Absolutely. If we collect, say we collect 300,000 instead of 270. Then
We have a prescribed rate reduction based upon a fixed amount. That would be my preference, that we leave it a fixed amount at 270 every year, high or low. And the general fund is going to take the hit on the low side. The benefit on the high side, that money probably needs to stay in the transportation benefit district.
That's just an accounting issue.
Well, the transportation benefit fund, the 270 doesn't cover everything that's. given.
No. It's,
So that money can't be transferred out of there anyway. So if 300,000 comes in for that, transportation benefit fund gets the 300,000. That's not,
The difference is gonna wind up being left in the general fund for us to choose how to
Correct.
allocate.
correct.
And
And
probably
I
should
think-
be done as a separate.
Well, one thought is that keep it in the sewer plant, in the sewer realm, and that could be sewer expansion.
Sewer expansion.
Facilitate some of the discussion. So it seems like everybody understands this issue. So if up is, I agree with this, sideways is neutral. Maybe the question. So we've got, it seems like if there is a surplus above 270,000, do you want that surplus to go to the water sewer fund?
I don't know if we, thumbs up, I don't know if we're recording what we think, I think we should be,
Right.
you
I think I think the spirit of the proposition was that we're raising the tax by 0.3%. That's going to streets. 0.3% of the current tax that's going to streets is going to be redirected to water sewer.
It'd be 1 for 1.
3%,
One-
yeah, the
one-
3% of the general fund going into the streets is coming back to the sewer fund.
Yeah, so I guess I would lean toward a monthly allocation based on actual tax revenues. So that every month we're just taking the new 3.3% and replacing the 0.3% that's currently going to the streets with that, and then moving that other 0.3% into water sewer,
So it
regardless of the amount.
regardless.
So if collections are $200,000 a year, then we'll revisit water sewer rates to ensure that. Okay, we've got one that's for that, we've got one that's.
I think we have
against that.
A commitment to suit
You
two
have,
seventy.
you have to hold at the 270
Yeah,
revenue stream for the 10-year period.
yeah.
You don't want to start bumping rates up and down based upon what your revenues are. The general fund makes up that difference. The nice thing about having an excess is that that money is set aside to take care of those years that you're lean. So if you got an extra $30,000 one year and you're $20,000 short the following year, you take 20,000 of that 30, put it to that, and you maintain that 270,000 revenue stream for the general fund for the sewer.
Is there an issue or problem just budgeting 270,000 a year or 22,500 every month?
That's the initial, that is, in the mechanism, there's the monthly versus the initial transfer,
Right.
and that what you're talking about, and what I believe Dave's saying is, would be just doing that the first year
Right.
and just
know, yeah, and
doing it.
I
And
think we're two different issues again
Yeah.
discussed at the same time here, and that's what gets confusing, because I think the secondary issue, however it's budgeted, the 270 is budgeted, and so we kind of, because whether it was a mistake or whatever, we're kind of trapped going with that 270 figure for now, unless we somehow change that. But I think the question is, though, is if eventually, however it's accounted for, whether it sits in a fund, as Dave suggests or not, does, let's say after a 10-year period, we have access, or whatever period you could account for that access, where does that access go? And I'm in agreement with Lucy and Dave, and you, it sounds like at this point that access ends up affecting the sewer, going to the benefit the sewer somehow. Now, one of the ways it could affect rates is if, well, you pay it on debt. I mean, then the rates, because the rates are paying for sewer debt. So I'm just concerned that if there is access, and your question was very good because you got to the rub of it a little bit, I think, on the point of contention that we use is, yeah, what do we do if there's access? And I know, I made clear where I want the access to go, how it's accounted for that excess. I don't know.
does it stay in the general fund for a period of time before we make a decision? It should be a separate decision the council makes that we have determined that we have this excess. How do we want to allocate it at that point? Because we've already budgeted the 270.
Yeah.
We've set up a whole rate structure based upon that. And we don't want to be bumping rate structures up and down. So if we have an excess, then we allocate it. You know, like maybe something to sewer improvements or whatever, you know, that it not, or sit in the general fund until we can make a determination whether we're gonna have a shortfall the next quarter or whatever.
So I'm concerned about the upper right box, talks about collections more than 270,000. States that the general fund will realize the greatest benefit from the surplus. Street fund will benefit from the surplus. Transportation benefit fund will benefit from the surplus. And the water sewer fund will not be impacted. I think that's incorrect because the street fund will not benefit from a surplus because you're pulling the general fund equal amount out.
The reason why it is because we're not replacing that 0.5%. Right now, 0.5% of the sales tax that's collected goes to the street fund. When we remove 0.3 from that, 0.2 still remains going to the street fund. You can change that so that it all goes to the general fund and you have more flexibility with the general funds. But based on past practices, we just continue this. 0.2 goes to the street fund. 8 goes to the general fund, of which 3.3 goes to the water sewer. You can change that so that it all goes to the general fund first, so there's not a monthly allocation toward street. If you're concerned about that, that can be done differently. But this analysis doesn't consider that change. We get $1 from the state. 50 cents goes to the general fund, 50 cents goes to the street fund. Right now.
Right.
We're building in this change where we're now getting 30 cents from the state. 30 cents will go to the transportation benefit district fund. 50 cents will go to the, 80 cents will go to the general fund.
That's $1.10.
Yeah. 40 cents will go to the street fund.
You're missing 30 cents, Ben.
Yeah.
So Ben, what he.
You've got to add in that 30 cents on that dollar.
So 80 cents goes to general, 20 cents goes to street, 30 cents goes to transportation benefit fund.
Yes.
And then of that 80 cents that went to the general fund, 30 cents is gonna go to water sewer.
You have the 80-20 split. And then you've got the 30 for the street or for the fund.
Same numbers, but it's.
Anyways, the way it's allocated, yeah.
So really, there isn't any benefit there.
There is.
For those.
There is. If we collect, instead of collecting $1.30, we collect $2, then the street fund will get a direct allocation to that $2.
And that is not what we were talking about. That any excess needs to go to the sewer fund. It doesn't,
street
you
fund
don't
gets
add into the street fund.
The street fund gets 0.2%. If we get more taxes, that 0.2% is bigger.
I can't really understand you.
He's saying the street fund gets 0.2%, and if we get more taxes, that 0.2% is bigger.
It's just bigger, larger dollar amount. We get more taxes in.
The allocation is the same, but it's bigger pie.
So you're adding both of them together
Mm-hmm.
rather than separating out. Because if this goes up over here, 0.3% goes up, then your sales tax is also going up on the other side. And that's what you're doing. Okay, got it.
Can I ask a
So-
clarifying question?
So the water treatment, the water sewer fund will be impacted. On
Won't
an
be
increase.
impacted because you took care of the 270 at the start of the year.
That's with the initial transfer in scenario.
That's what that upper right box is saying.
So we're just saying the water sewer fund gets 270,000. Any excess is not.
So then
Allocated.
where is the rest of that 30 cents,
It's flexible for you to use however you see it fit.
which needs to go to the sewer fund?
Okay.
Right, and then.
I'm very adamant about that. That 30
And that-
cents needs to go to the sewer fund. It's not for other public works projects or anything else on the tip.
And that commitment will need to be made each year. And so that same discussion we had for transfers, for fire, that commitment will need to be made each year as you're monitoring budgets or even a year later, so you understand whether there was a surplus or deficit, from the previous year. You'll have to make that commitment each year.
Why do we have to make that commitment each year? Why can we not make that commitment for that 10-year period? Because that's what the rates are based on.
Talk about the surplus, just the surplus.
I know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
So that
but
commitment
it'll be
is for a
different.
10-year period, and any surplus is going to be going into the sewer fund.
Mhm.
Why do we have to revisit it every year? I mean, this is a 10-year commitment that we've laid before our constituents.
So is it recommit every year?
You have to recommit every year. And trust that future councils will see the need in reducing sewer rates, which I'm sure they will.
I think there's two different things being said here. You're saying from a procedural standpoint, the budget, you have to redo the budget every year. Okay, and I think what Dave is saying, we made a commitment, a 10-year commitment, and the council on what this money would be used for. I think we can, let's say, fine, you have to do something every year with the budget. The point, Dave still makes a valid point. I think we can do both. We just need to honor our commitment that we all made, right? And Dave is saying that should be codified somehow, clear that if a future council then changes that, I guess they have the prerogative to do that, but it wasn't the basis of why we put this on the ballot.
Right.
You know, and so I think what Dave is saying, let's make that pretty clear and codify it. Of course, anybody can come along and change anything we've ever done, maybe in 5 years and not honor the commitment this council has made.
The best way to accomplish what you're saying with that, in the case of a surplus, is the monthly allocation. And so I want you all to talk about if there's a deficit too. Again, there's no, well, I guess I didn't say this, in the verbal report and put in the memo, there's no right way to do this. There's just a best way based on your collective wisdom. And so if you are looking at surpluses in that, the best way to ensure that the water sewer fund realizes that is the monthly allocation. But I do want you to talk about if there's a deficit or if we collect less than 270, because I am worried about that bubble, what could be a bubble in 2021, 22, and 24, 23, and 24, and meaning reflecting less than 270. And so in that case, what I'm hearing you say is the stability for those rates would be the top left of that box. So having initial transfer.
In that case, with the initial transfer in, the general fund's basically subsidizing it. So
Right.
with the monthly allocation, maybe we do a similar thing. If it falls under, then we subsidize it with the general fund.
Either way is going to take monitoring and adaptation. And so the conversation here is exploring all those so that we can present something to you that's going to work. There is disagreement amongst the five of you about whether there should be flexibility for the general fund to allocate any surplus. But that disagreement seems to be 4-1, so we can kind of set that aside as a topic of discussion, I think, at this point. And that understanding that is probably one of the most important things, and so now we can take that top right, I think, off of what we would do, and then focus on which of those remaining 3 boxes is going to be the best.
So you're taking the upper right box out?
Based on your discussions tonight, that one becomes a course of action we're not going to pursue.
And why is that?
Why is that? Is because you want to ensure that any surplus in that fund provides a direct benefit to the water sewer fund, and that one does not provide a direct benefit.
So what? Right, you were saying that basically that top right one just caps the benefit at 270. And if we collect more, it still only benefits at 270, don't benefit anyone else. But you're saying that's not what we signed up for, that's not what we're looking for, that wasn't the way that we see was presented. So we'd like to see if it goes over 270, it's still that surplus stays with water sewer fund. That's what everyone wants to get the. That's what we're all.
And you do that through a supplemental budget for the revenue stream.
If we were to pick the top right, then we would need to do a supplemental budget every time if we were to pick the top right.
And what is the issue against that?
You'd have to do a change no matter what. So the issue against that is that it provides the council with the flexibility every year. And every year the council could go back on what you're saying is your word to the voters, that this is going to water sewer rates. So
I'm not comfortable with that.
So that's why that one.
Okay, so
Just to,
I'm not comfortable with going to the voters and saying, we decided to change our mind.
Right,
no. Just to clarify, clarify my position on it, but one of the issues that we're having here is we're struggling with budgeting fluctuating revenue stream as opposed to a static amount. I mean, I still don't understand why we just can't have a single budget item set up for sewer water for $270,000. Leave it at that.
That's your initial revenue stream being transferred in from general fund for your initial budget.
And then the general fund takes the ebb and flow of the revenue stream throughout the year. But that doesn't account for anything surplus.
can we do both? We do it your way and have amount for a surplus, is what I'm thinking later.
Well,
That's what
if there is a surplus, we're gonna be able to determine that within the budget year. But, so it's kind of treated kind of like a mortgage. We've made a promise to the community, we're just gonna set aside this amount of money, $22,500 every month to go towards sewer and water. And that's just a budgeted item. Just keep it simple.
Right, yeah.
And then you have a revenue stream coming in from the street fund.
Right.
Back to the general fund.
And it's the general fund that's gonna take the brunt of the up and down.
Finally gonna go to the whiteboard.
I'm finally gonna go to the whiteboard.
You're twisting of your pen.
So,
It's less to explain
I know,
anything.
we've actually made a commitment that 0.5% goes directly to street fund now. The current 0.5% before we had added 0.3.
I'm less talking about the content of what you're saying, or trying to give you encouragement. This is a normal process to go through. So you're starting to get to the point where you're revisiting certain decisions. That's what happens when we have an idea. We expand how we're thinking, and there are more ideas. And before we contract and get to one single decision, there's this messy middle, this growing zone, and you're there. And so, getting through this groan zone is just what I'm wanting to encourage you all to do is go ahead and groan. Go ahead and know that you're figuring this out and figuring out the best way. And that's part of ensuring that you do figure out the best decision. So, good job. Keep going.
Yeah, I think we're done. I mean, I think we know what the intent.
Right, the intent, I think we all have the same intent.
Yeah.
In the end, just trying to figure out the best way to see if you get there, so.
Okay, so how about this? It's a monthly or even a monthly allocation so that the general fund absorbs the ebb and the flow. Month 13, we look at how much money came in.
Mhm.
If that exceeds the, whatever that magical sweet spot is, 277, if it exceeds that, now we know there's this much left. We have made a commitment to dump that. Now we have to say on our budget amendment or whatever, however, that money goes immediately to.
It would have already,
Okay.
gone under the monthly allocation.
If you do it monthly.
If you do it
Right,
monthly.
would already
If you
be
do it
in
as, Chuck suggests, you know, it's more static, either way, but that would be a method of doing it, you do it on the 13th month or whatever. Either way, I don't really care as long as we do that, but you're saying, don't fluctuate it every month. It
Well,
doesn't
just
matter
try
to
to
me
keep
how
it-
it's done.
Try to keep it
Well,
simple instead
what I
of making
want-
calculations every single month or whatever.
I think we've settled on if there's a surplus, what to do. The conversation that we are not having is if there's a deficit, what to do. And I want you to have that so that we can provide
But
some
the-
recommendations.
Deficit,
So,
well, we kind of made the commitment, this deficit is going to have to come out of the general fund.
A deficit means our overall tax revenues are down, so that kind of affects everything.
Okay, yeah. It's going to be a budgeting issue for the following year.
It just is, I have no problem, if if we are, let's say, for a county, you say it's simpler to keep it steady, like Chuck was suggesting. If and we're running a deficit, we're having to put more in than revenue comes in from this 0.3. I have no problems with the surplus at some point covering that deficit. You see what I mean?
If there is a surplus.
If there is, and whenever that happens, if it ever catches up, then fine,
But that,
then, does that make
I
sense?
feel like it kind of goes
You got
against
bills
what
to
we've
pay.
already talked about. So far, it's been if there's a surplus, just keep it going into the sewer fund.
No, I
But
meant
if you
the surplus.
bank the surplus and just let it sit there, that's what you're talking about. Now we chip away at it.
No, I'm saying there's only a surplus if, in fact, we have no deficits that we've subsidized.
Right.
You know, otherwise there's not a surplus. If there's a surplus, yes, it got to
Well,
help.
the ebb and flow though was it'd be hitting the general fund.
But that
for
ebb
one
and
month.
flow, if there's a deficit, that comes out of, you see what I don't know if I'm getting
Dan, let me
clear.
ask a question. If there's a surplus, it first goes into the general fund,
Right.
correct? Goes into the general fund, and the general fund then we do a transfer from general fund into the sewer fund.
I thought we had a direct line item for that tax.
It depends on the decision we make tonight. I can't answer your question because it depends on the decision.
Okay, so play with me here for a second. So we get our surplus, goes into the general fund. We turn around and on the 13th month, we say, oh, we got $20,000. So now we got $20,000 sitting in the general fund that we didn't have for the 2026 budget. Okay, so now we allocate 270 into for the 2026 budget.
Sure.
Okay. So, all right. Knowing full well that we have that additional money sitting there.
Right.
So if there's additional revenue that we are pulling out of the general fund to facilitate the sewer fund, we take that additional amount that we had at the end of the year and we pull that out and put it in there.
So what I'm hearing is, doing that. Staying on the top, so, initial transfer in of 270, monitoring that to see if there's a surplus and intending to transfer that out. And so that provides all of these situations do provide future councils the opportunity to say that, oh, that $20,000 extra that we collected is just gonna go to what we need it to go to. It's not gonna go to water sewer. It's gonna provide them that opportunity, and so it's your burden to, stay true to this commitment that you're making this to have it go to water sewer.
Is that not, I mean, that's, and then maybe I'm thinking of this wrong, but that's the way it is with any commitment that we make. We're trusting future councils are going, like, gonna honor, and we've tried to stay true to, you know, honor decisions that have been made. When a commitment is made, like the taxes that are coming in, however, there's, like, we're,
The commitment to actually pay attention to infrastructure,
right, like that's.
which we have been doing.
That's what we've been trying to do. So I mean, we have, there's gotta be some faith in there, and I don't think we can, I don't know how we can make it so that they couldn't change.
We can't tie their hands.
Right, we can't do that, so I think that all of us in good faith are gonna have to just make. Those kind of decisions.
A budget note that stays with those.
Right, well, yeah, it'll absolutely still come up in every, and know why
So-
it's there.
Summarizing, I think we are going with the top row, the initial transferring, because that's gonna
13
keep
month
it
ago.
full. And then we monitor it over time, to vote surplus. We're not monitoring deficit because we're keeping it whole, to keep the rates where they are.
Right.
Correct. Keeping them true to that.
Are we to the decision point?
I think you are. I think you've got.
Well, we were getting there, we were just, I think we were all kind of talking around it a little bit, but we all had the same intent in the end anyway, we were just trying to figure out how to make it.
Yeah.
Work, so,
Carolyn's turn now.
You guys make your decision?
yeah, we did.
Okay, so, we are getting very close in the First Street project. We didn't, finish all of the striping because the weather got bad. So, there's a resolution just to let the contractor, shut down the road for a week. So similar to like what we were experiencing last, fall. That's
So
all.
it'd be just like block off there and to there and they'll then stripe it.
Yep, it'll be the same. So,
We need to do.
Do we need to do a motion for that?
We have to do,
you know,
I make a motion to allow the closure of First Street to complete or associated with the city construction project.
Second,
Is this a comment item?
No,
What that was started.
no, it's a recent addition. But first and second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Right.
Thank you very much. All right, you have some informational items in your.
Other items there, Carolyn, too?
Sure.
Did you have anything else?
Oh, she's come.
Oh, there's-
Oh, she's
Okay.
coming down on, show 9C.
oh, I got you, Chuck.
Okay.
I've got info for you, sir.
Okay.
You know, I did the.
Ray, thank you for your patience. You want to come sit up front?
About how often. I go back there.
My turn to go.
It is.
All right. I gave this to email Ben and the mayor, if you guys want to just take one and pass it around. It's just kind of a quarterly update, what we have going. First part of the year, I'm learning a lot of, preparing for wildfire season and just our annual testing. You'll see a list of things folks will have to do with the DNR red cards, so we are all prepped for wildfire season. The DNR is doing their field day on my property here in a couple weeks as well. We did participate with the BNSF hazmat, they flew someone from corporate in, which was pretty nice. To learn a lot of things about a response here in the gorge. We are doing a residential and a commercial, training with Northwest Natural Gas here in a couple weeks as well. Just response to an incident. We did complete the fit test for all of our interior firefighters. The engine, looking at a new engine, is progressing pretty well. We think we'll order it by the end of April. We're looking at probably closer to around 800,000, I think. They have gone up another 100 grand, it sounds like, since we started looking the cost of them. But they did advise buy it before the new NFPA standard comes out this summer, because they will go up significantly again with the new standard when it's announced. We're preparing for the WSRB audit. If any of you don't know, Cody is aware, which is aware of them and been participating, which is great. This will be my first one. Ben's been through one, but the review is 40% fire team, 20% city fire code, 20% the water system, 20% communication level at the sheriff's office. Unfortunately, we're graded on a full-time fire department schedule, but it does massively impact our insurance for our commercial and residential users tremendously. We do have a good score for Skamania County, a really good score. We're hoping to build on that. I did do a 2-hour pre-audit interview with the state on it. Luckily, the guy that's come down from Kelso this year sounds like he'll work with us, like give us, maybe if you buy certain things, it will help your score. Because unfortunately, the state likes to round up as well on these audits. We're prepping for that, but they did get I shared with all the departments on, even the sheriff, what to fill out in preparation, and then they'll spend the day in August here going through like fire call logs, looking at our apparatus, stuff like maintenance schedules, stuff like that. So hoping to learn a lot. Seems like this guy is willing to work with us and give us ideas. So maybe if we have to make a couple purchases to get a better score, that will help our insurance rates for our tax base. Another thing is Fire District 2 did approve all officers on the staff to get a $100 a month stipend. We'll go over that at the next joint meeting. I'd like to have this, city council entertain. I don't know if I just want to talk to you guys about it because with volunteer teams, it's in the news a lot. They're requiring a lot of time volunteer, especially the officer staff training, preparing training. And I'm thinking the stipend will help maybe spark a little more interest in the future as we get not a major, 100 or 200 bucks a month, but get more interest because it is a lot of time preparing training and going to weekend trainings and, leaving your family sometimes. So I'm hoping that will help get a little more people more involved with the officer side in the future. Because, there's a few people, I have really good people that are officers, but some of them said they'll be done in the next 5 years. So, what's that? Officers? I have 6 officers. That's one thing on the WSRB audit. I think that will help us because we have people like Cody right here, a lot of experience in the fire. So his prior experience will help us a lot with our WSRB audit. But also, one training, Barbara just emailed me. I am doing my NIMS 300, which is high-end incident management training. Usually you have to go to Seattle or Spokane for those trainings, and it's a 3-day training. We're going to host one down here at EMS this year. So I'll be able to do that in the end of May. But yeah, so we have Cody, Val, Morty, Bill Battistoni, and Tyson Marcos. You know Tyson. Tyson teach fire at EMS at college for college students as well. So, good staff, good officer staff. So any questions? I hope by next month's meeting, Larry from Twin End, the rep, he flies into town and he goes over really specs and everything. We're saving $100,000 by choosing an already engineered truck already once they've delivered. It might not be in time, but I'll send it to Ben or Scott. And so if all the council members can get it, I don't know when, I know our next joint meeting is supposed to be soon too. The fire commissioners from the rural district are a little more flexible on that. Speaking of which, we do have a new, Francis is going to be my assistant, the chief's executive assistant. We've hired Lorene, who has to help us get through getting digital. We've applied for a grant to get digital at the district level, getting us, because the state audits, as well as everybody can tell, they really want you to be all digital, and so we're really pushing for that. Hopefully we hear good news on the district side about and that will include sit down at this fire station. We'll go through, it'll include cleaning up all the paperwork, being able to tell us what to get rid of, what to save, and everything else. So hoping to hear good news on that in the next few weeks.
How you doing on getting everybody's Turnout's clean.
They're done. I got to speak with Cascade Locks chief. I spent a lot of time over there, Ben watched some. Like a lot of departments, they're excited to team up with us, train with us, and, I think that both of us should depend on each other more than we have in the past. Because, you know, when the fires do come, it's good to have more manpower than. So, one thing that he shared with me, their run call, you know, cards, so and we're automatically auto dispatch number one for a structure or a wildfire next door. And they in turn are the same. If we have a major incident or a confirmed structure fire, I will be paging out Cascade Locks as well.
Rick, can you talk about some of the other partnership building and D5 and the training?
Okay, so, we did do the BNSF. We have worked with, like, I invited all the districts and we hosted down there. It was really good. We had about 22 participants from all the districts. We're doing like EVIP training with Carson. That's the emergency vehicle, intervention, the driving, you have to refreshers. We're gonna do some, like with the DNR, we're doing, EMS is kind of helping us, all the teams train together. So we're gonna do like, Red Card is down at EMS, next Monday. We're gonna do our refresher down there, but another refresher's up in District 4 the following, like a couple weeks from now. And then we're also gonna have the field day for all the districts up here in Stevenson. I did go to Olympia with Chief Fuller as well, hoping to get them some funding to finish up their station for DNR County, Sheriff's Office, EMS use, stuff like that. A visit with Representative Waters and stuff like that. And that was good. I think our focus is turning on how we can all help each other. Put egos aside and just flat out, because it's not if, it's when, and just how do we pull our resources together and help each other when that time comes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For being here.
One of the things on my list was to get good dates or get bad dates for the next quarterly meeting with the fire district. And so maybe we can do that now while we're thinking about fire. Is there anything in the next 4 weeks, month that isn't working for you guys?
Great Week's the only one that doesn't, anything else is.
You want to throw out some dates? It's easier for me to do that.
Last one we did was on, so that's.
Usually that's pretty good because, you know, most of the commissioners, Howard's the only wild card always because work's taking them. But if we pick up Wednesday or Thursday, that shouldn't be too rough. We can do it down there again. We did get new tables and the TV will be up soon down there at the station. So been working on updating it down there.
So Wednesday, what night are we, kind of a wet day? And then that already turned.
What about the 9th then?
I was just looking.
Oh,
at that.
which month we talking about? April, okay.
I have no dots.
I have no dots on that day.
On the 9th?
I'm not the only person, but
I may have jury duty that day. I don't know till the 8th whether I get out of it or not.
Yes, if they find you guilty.
Oh, it's not me though. They won't let me sit on my own jury. It's the other corpers.
What about the 10th?
I can't do that.
I'm okay on the 9th.
I'm on jury duty. I'm not. in one-
Pat, if it's my case, I will cut you. I'm just letting you know during board
That's
years.
why I'm hoping it's your case. So then I go to this meeting instead.
There you go.
well, I mean, it should be an evening, so it should be,
Oh, if it's in the evening, then fine. It doesn't matter. The 9th is good.
yeah.
Which date?
Doesn't matter.
No, 9th not working for you?
Not evening,
Yeah, recently.
I would do if
unless we can do like early evening, like 5.
So we've got one that doesn't work on the 9th, one that doesn't work on the 10th.
I could probably do the 5 on the 9th.
If it's 5 on the
if
9th,
we don't
it
go
works
too
for both
late.
of us.
Yeah.
I'm retired, so it doesn't matter.
and honestly, here we go again. It works for the others, 5 o'clock on the 9th, work for me, but I don't know how.
That's my nap time.
Too early for you guys?
Dave, that's my nap time.
So we can give 2 options.
I can't do the 10th.
Sorry,
Can anyone else not do the 10th?
It's fine for me.
not do the 10th?
Yeah. So we can give the commissioners two options.
Yeah. The 9th or the 10th. I mean, does it sound like the 9th option A?
Yeah,
Okay.
Early though.
Five.
Be-
5:30 started.
Maybe 5 for Lucy, if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to try to
Ben,
get done by
you'll notify
7.
that, Send out an invite.
By 7?
Oh,
Well, if our fire meeting goes 2 hours, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
yeah. all
so
right.
tentatively the 9th at 5 o'clock.
That work?
Okay, the 9th, we'll shoot for the 9th, like 5:30.
Perfect. Ben,
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
thanks for your patience.
Community Development Director, reports, is that what we're on to?
Yep.
Okay, you do have the zoning meeting on, the 3rd, so that's, solidified. Reminder about ex parte communications. And always avoid them, try to avoid them, that's much easier to do in person. To say, hey, the time to talk about this is at the meeting, if you can't, and then encourage them to come to the meeting, so. If you can't avoid that or encounter those, we need to disclose the content of that and let the public decide whether you're fit to vote on those issues based on those communications. So, you know, there have been a number. We will include all those within the meeting packet for review. So there's nothing that specific you need to disclose on those. They're part of the for that, but there are other ones that come up. Just be prepared to explain what the communication was, what the content of it was, and whether that influences your view of the projects. A little bit different for that one, just a reminder. With the Planning Commission, they have been looking about how to better integrate with the council to ensure that the work that they're doing is advancing the city council's strategic priorities. And so had a good conversation with the mayor at one of their meetings, and the chair again for this year, Mr. Burkle, has offered to come and explain specific items or be a voice to help answer questions on specific items. Come to you, he's here tonight. You can see some time to him if you wanted to discuss it.
Thank you, Ben. Members of the council, we had a great meeting with Mayor Anderson here in February, and I think the gist was, how do we better coordinate, how do we better communicate between what's of interest, you know, to the council, and what issues do we see coming up, you know, on the planning commission side. Ben has been our sort of our conduit between the two bodies in terms of passing information, bringing our recommendations and decisions to you. But we also thought that it would be desirable to have someone from the planning commission as well sitting here with you if you have questions. Or if you have things that you think should be on our agenda to look at, or if there's something that we want to highlight with you that we see as an emerging issue that you may want to address back to the planning commission in terms of what your interests are. So, you know, just trying to be, I think, as efficient as we can be in terms of working and supporting what you do. We look, you know, as our charter is a recommending body to you in many ways. We do have some quasi judicial decisions that we make, but we're really here to serve the interest of the council. Facilitate and make those communications and coordination better. That's what we're here for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The construction season is approaching us, and so permit volume is not as high as it had been the last 3 years. That's another reason why we're thinking that maybe some of those sales tax receipts might be a little less because there's not people spending those high dollars on construction materials out there. So it's a little bit slower. There's
Who's got you today?
we just got to tonight. And Hidden Ridge, all the lots up there are essentially built out. There may be one or two that remain.
Or three.
three of the remaining decks.
We watch them diligently.
Essentially built out, so there's no opportunity there. We are starting to get the inflow for Genevieve Phase 2, 3. And depending on how that goes, how quickly people build there, that we build out at a similar rate to Hidden Ridge. In which case we're back to just doing infill projects. Town don't have any developers that are really knocking at the door to do large subdivisions or exploring that. So the future is what the future will be, but some indications of where it has been and where it's at.
Hey, Ben?
Yeah.
Any movement going on in the development on Rock Creek?
Maldonado pulled his fence.
Just what I was gonna ask.
The fence went
Pulled the
down.
fence.
The fence went down.
Pulled his fence.
You know, what does that mean? I mean, is he?
Is he getting ready to do something? Don't know.
I'm not in the.
The information I have is.
I'm not in the fence reading, so I don't know what that
Okay.
means. That's
Thought about giving him a call and asking him.
It seems like.
If you call him, he may ask you for 1.5 million. That's what he's looking for the final investment.
Probably have 1,000.
My understanding is it's not gonna go forward.
Really? Even after
That's too bad.
winning all his lawsuits, huh?
Yeah.
Before you're done, I just want to thank Mr. Breckles. You know, I know you've been years and years working with the planning commission, and I want to thank you for all that you put into this town. I'm sorry I didn't say it when you were speaking. Anyway, go on.
That's the end of community development.
Carolyn?
All right, so some kind of fun news. As many of you, if not all of you, have heard, I am resigning, likely mid-May. Exact date is pending, but we are fortunate enough to be able to promote within and the department. So Cody came to us with project asset management experience. He gained it in situ. He also had supervisory experience and budgeting experience with DNR and some public works experience in the county. So he's been here. He's gained considerable experience in the wastewater and sewer department and as a wastewater operator. And then most recently, he's been supervising the public works department. So he's got experience in streets in our water system as well. So he, I think, you know, it's been advantageous for the city that I don't have a hard deadline for resignation. So we've been able to support kind of a longer transition. So we've been working on this for the last 6 weeks, couple months, and then we still have another 6 weeks. So Cody's gonna start taking on more and more. Still have my support here in the next 6 weeks. So the goal is a seamless transition for staff and public, and I think that we will be successful in that. So kind of a big staff update.
Welcome, Cody.
Yeah, in water, we got our 90% plan in hand at Cascade Avenue. The Cascade Avenue project, that's been reviewed with the port, with the SDA, and other affected property owners and businesses along Cascade Avenue. In the wastewater world, ecology dropped by and visited today. It went relatively well. There's really good collaboration with them on operations and some of the new challenges that we're experiencing with the upgraded plant. So we haven't run this plant for very long, so we're doing a lot of learning, and getting their expertise and experience today was very helpful. The sewer ordinance draft that y'all approved to go out to the public is advancing. So we're working with Tri-Peppy Smith to make sure that we have information that we can present in a way that makes it very, very clear. And, you know, most specifically, focusing in on the components of the ordinance that will make connection as affordable as possible for the citizens, as well as being very clear what available means. Because there's a couple of the really big questions that people had. So I'm working on that. My goal would be to get another, get as much of that and done as I can before I leave. So there'll definitely be something in April's meeting. Like the, meeting will have, a comment period option for that. In the streets world, we've been collaborating with SDA on Spruce Up Stevenson, so that's the 26th of April. Hopefully all of you will be there, mark your calendars.
9 to noon.
Our people employees made a real great dent in the downtown deferred maintenance, so, you guys haven't noticed, please do. Wayfinding signs are going up. Our punch list on First Street, like you said, should be completed in the next couple weeks. Or like you approved, will be completed in the next couple weeks. And expect a date for ribbon cutting at the next meeting. So we'll do ribbon cutting there. We wanted to do it in the spring when it was nice and we wouldn't all be out there sugaring. One of our on-call engineers, HHPR, provided some options for revised striping on Mid-Russell. So next steps for that would be to work with and collaborate with community stakeholders in the area. So we will be initiating those conversations in the future. In your packet, there should be a working document for equipment replacement schedule. It's called equipment replacement, but it's really more a purchase and salvage schedule. So this is a living, breathing document. We add to it, we take away from it, we move equipment around within the years, but we're trying to make sure, we're trying to get to a place where we can replace equipment as it needs to be, not when we're spending way more on man hours to fix it before we can use it. So that's there. We do review that with the city administrator in the fall in anticipation of the next year's budget. So it's really just there so you know that it exists. It's somewhat akin to the capital facilities plan, but for rolling stock.
Can I break in?
Sure.
So I wanted Carolyn to provide this to you. It's not a new document. This is something that they've had for a very long time, but this is part of that distance between the Stegosaurus and the T-Rex that we're talking about, that there's so much going on here. And we do a poor job of letting you know what there is. So the budgets that are developed and the budgets that have been developed for many, many years are based on the decisions like this, the salvage, salvage purchase needs here, expectations for those departments. So it's not new. It is shown to you here for the first time, but it isn't new.
Yeah.
There are new vehicles on there because in the past, this was something that was owned and maintained by the Public Works Department. We did not have a fire department apparatus identified anywhere. And we definitely heard you in the discussions we've been having this spring, this winter, about the need for that. And so we've added those here. I didn't have
Ray Adam. I gave him the lines though.
There you go.
I inserted the rows and then he filled it out.
So
So
you got a line item. You give me a line.
I
item,
gave him
so
a
we're
row.
covered.
3 rows in. So, and then, just kind of some miscellaneous stuff. I wanted to let everyone know that it's kind of a funny story. So I bought a house in Carson and, one of the things that you have to do when you buy a house with a septic system is you need to, you're supposed to get it pumped and you're supposed to inspect it. And I was like, well, I would like to go and observe this inspection. And those guys are a wealth of knowledge. I grew up on a septic system and I had no idea. The components, how you tell if something's going wrong, what to put down, what not to put down. And they agreed to come and give a talk to our residents. So I'm working with Steph at the county, and we've got a date to do like an informational forum for our septic system folks within Skamania County, City of Stevenson included. And we've got a designer, we've got an installer, and then we also have like a maintenance company that are all going to come and kind of share. Hey, this is how we design them. This is how we size them, and hey, this is how we put them together. And then also, these are things that you really want to be thinking about. We have so many people coming into the area that may not have ever experienced a septic system situation. So I'm pretty stoked to be able to do that. Of course.
So this is a great initiative that Carolyn's been working on, and it's a result of those conversations that we were having as part of the sewer ordinance, where the public on septic felt like we were out to get those septic users. And that impression's unfortunate. It's not what we intended with that. And so this is an effort to support those septic users to make sure their systems are maintained so that their systems are maintained. And if they are maintaining them, that threat that they felt about if your system fails, then you'll have to do something isn't as real because they have some power in their hands to control the situation.
I'm not going to be here on septic, but hopefully you come April 16th at 6 o'clock at Hegwald Center. Kind of lastly, well, not lastly, second to lastly, engineering standards update is something I'd like to see completed before I leave. Been working on it for a couple of years, but what we're most excited about is a change to our construction chapter. It's very text heavy. It's actually all text now, and we are going to transition them to standard details because a picture says 1,000 words. They'll now be pictures. So when it comes time to do those reviews, it's build it to look like this. And when we send inspectors out, say, go make sure that it looks like this. And hopefully that will help bridge. Nobody wants to read pages and pages of text, but people don't really mind looking at pictures. So that is the goal there. So working on that. And kind of lastly, you guys always get here in the dark, but our people for people person, with Cody's encouragement, did a really great job of cleaning up City Hall. So he pressure washed like the entire building, sidewalk, everything. So where it was green before, it is now gray again. And so please take a look next time you drive by in the light. That's all. Unless you has questions.
Ben, put your other hat on.
I'm putting my other hat on, I can do that. The Tri-Pepe Smith is still under contract with us. It's the same contract that you all authorized before. So that contract authority was for information about the ballot and then also support with the sewer situation totally. So they're still working under that not to exceed amount. We will do a full accounting of the invoices from them and everything else that went into providing information about the ballot so that you can see what the investment was. And so that's clear to the public what the investment was and estimated $2.7 million. So that is coming, not quite available yet. Already talked about the rate setting group, so we will have a contract with them and to start looking at some things again. What I do want them to look at and provide scenarios for you to make decisions on is if we can make sure that those residents, those voters on this are realizing the biggest benefit from this. If that means some, if their reduction in increase in sewer rates is less than the bigger water users, then that's something that will be put forward for you to make decisions on. I hear you, or I hear those of you who said, you know, didn't realize in those discussions that we were putting half of the ballot proceeds toward water and half toward sewer. It was definitely something that was discussed, but we'll try to make sure that those presentations and those decision points have a little bit more color so that it's a little bit clearer when you're making those big decisions. That will be the challenge. For those of you who sat through those presentations, that will be the challenge. We'll embrace that challenge. Utility customer audits. This is the one to ensure that everybody's being billed at the rate that they should be billed at, and that whether they are being billed appropriately. And so we'll have a full understanding of if there are under billings that were issued and put to you all as whether or not to just waive those under billings or to go and collect on those. So that's underway. It was not possible to get it all done in advance of this meeting, which is what my target was, but it's not possible. There's the lack of staff has been catching up with us. So 6 months and then working with 2 temps has caught us this month. Fortunately, we beginning the 1st of next month, we do start to get caught up. The utility clerk comes back from her leave. So going to use her initially to do some of her job, but also to really help us document the standard operating procedures that we have for utility billing practices right now, which is not well documented. And it's not easy to train up new staff where there's no understanding of what the previous staff was doing. But we'll get those in place to make sure that we don't deal with that in the future and that there's an expectation for how the clerk performs. At this stage, it's very hard to have an expectation when there's no direction either. So that is something that we will focus on early next month or throughout the course of next month. One of the issues that we saw, one issue that occurred is in the February bills that were sent out. The process to understand how much everyone owes in bills involves a handoff of information between the desk here and the field staff. And so the field staff, they go out with their tablets and they read the meters, and that says how much is used. And that tablet produces a spreadsheet. And the billing staff have to go into that tablet and download that spreadsheet, upload that spreadsheet into billing software, different software. They have to be able to speak together somehow. And for February, instead of uploading February's reads, they uploaded the January's reads. And so for those customers who use less than the 400 cubic foot allotment both months, that's fine. They didn't notice any difference. For those who use more, they would have gotten the same billing as the previous month. So we believe that the billing software is going to be able to correct for that. We won't have to do manual corrections or assessments of each one. We're prepared to do manual assessments of each bill that went out to understand whether there's corrections that need to occur. But thankfully, this was in the low usage months, so typical low usage months. But part of my role in this process is understanding where we're tripping over our own feet, and there is some tripping over our own feet that occurred with where the file goes once it's downloaded from the meter readers, and we were able to get that corrected. So it went off into some nebulous spots, and the utility billing clerk, it wasn't clear exactly where it went to, and we didn't have the ability to direct it where they would want it to go. We corrected that. Now they can direct it where they want it to go from the start. And so that's one less opportunity for error. That was a self-inflicted system. But what's the metaphor? The security system with all the lasers that we have to go through just exactly perfectly. And if you sneeze, you just set off all the security system. We just shut off the lasers, and now we can do what we need to do. So some improvements there, and learning the hard way on that.
You want me to ask a question on that? Now, it won't trigger bills where they have all the overages for somebody that's over. It'll hit in 1 month to where you get what I'm saying?
If you used 500 cubic feet.
But you get what I'm saying? Will it trigger where somebody get an artificially high bill?
If somebody used 500 cubic feet, if somebody used 100 extra in January, they were billed for 100 extra in February. You need to go back to understand whether they use that in February or not, And we think that everything's gonna be seamless with the billing, and so those adjustments will be made.
And if they
automatically.
didn't, then they'll get a credit back on it.
Yeah. And if the billing software doesn't do it automatically, we're prepared to lay out the spreadsheet and do our subtraction and make it happen, so. Not gonna end on that note. You, heard from Lou tonight. She owns and operates a major facility that is used, for tourism generation purposes. The tourism fund, can't directly go to, repair the holes in Lou's roof, because that is not municipally owned. So one of the things that we were talking about as we reviewed tourism contracts last year, and something I'd like to see the Tourism Advisory Committee really work on more, is by policy, having a certain amount for utility rental or facility rentals. Whatever, you're gonna rent the Interpretive Center Museum, this tourism fund will pay X amount per day. You wanna rent the county fairgrounds, this fund will pay X amount per day. And then we can be communicating with those facilities to ensure that they know that they can charge X amount per day to those tourism advisory fund recipients, so that they're able to start doing some improvements on the basis of our funding, even though we can't. So working to build those partnerships, working with what we can and within our constraints to build those partnerships in a way so that Public Records Officer report.
Haven't really had too many things, just strictly going through the 17,000 emails that I'm still trying to do. But I do have something that I kind of want to talk about. We are currently using Laserfiche as our repository and for public facing documents, Outward Portal. This is not a very wonderful program. It has a lot of clunks. It's not really doing what it should be doing for us. There is an opportunity to put that repository underneath one umbrella of Civic Plus, which is who does our website and who is, it's all municipally bound. So with understanding on how public records works, how we provide public records to the public, how we hold them, how we make a repository, how we can go ahead and it will, everything that we put in, once we put the metadata in, it will automatically drop off our DANs, which is our destruction date. So it will go off of there and automatically do that. It is something that kind of working through with a couple of companies. Laserfiche charges a lot of money to do this. This is less money and it is a little more friendly to public records. So I just wanted to kind of broach the subject with you and let you know I'll have something next month to kind of show you to see if maybe we can jump ship to a new system that will be a little better. There's more redaction, there's more safety for it.
Automatic redacting.
Yes. So Laserfiche does not quite provide all of the bells, buttons, and whistles that we thought it would. And not only that, I was not involved in really part of the makeup of it. And Caitlin and I did not get a lot of our feet wet in it. And to get us up to speed within their system, they wanted to charge another $8,000. So, you know, I don't know. I'll leave it up to you all whenever I bring it to you next month, but I just don't think that
There has
they're
been
serving us.
Heather less than warm fuzzy situation. So
Very less than warm and fuzzy.
if it's gonna be an uphill battle the entire time as opposed to,
With Laserfiche.
yeah,
Mhm.
it has not produced these benefits that were promised. And yeah, and the fact that they're continuing to
Yeah.
yank at the line is, we're
And keep me on an email chain. They kept me on an email chain as they were talking about our city. How much should we charge them? 10,000, 8,000? Well, hi.
I can hear you.
Yeah, so,
They're supposed to be handling technology.
yeah, it's a little just, so I think it'll be more cohesive with everything. Under one umbrella.
You can answer this question next month if you want, but a question I have is, I know that there's been a lot of effort to put the stuff on the Laserfish, right? And so do we lose that, all that effort?
No,
Okay,
we
and
don't
we're
lose
in
it.
the system.
Yeah, it goes, it transfers over.
Migrates across.
Yeah, migrates completely. So, yeah, I'm just hoping that it's all under one umbrella and it's a little less, a little more user friendly.
The gold standard that we're shooting for with this is that this portal that we have is populated with all the records that we know that there's nothing sensitive in. And so people can go on at their leisure and query terms and a little text search through all the records that have been uploaded to that. And that will reduce the amount of time that we need to spend on public records responses because they will have searched through 15 of these 45 cabinets that we have already. So that limits the total number that we have to do manually. We'll still have some things that weren't provided because they're potentially sensitive, but this system allows for that, just document repository generally. It allows for the request to come in from the public through the portal and then provides the tools to the public records officer when they're doing the job.
And it could also be used as a, once we start our digitization, it can house the majority of that information with appropriate DANs connected to each one of those documents. So it drops off, at the time when it's supposed to, or we go through and pull the records and dispose as how we need. This is a little cleaner.
I mean, do we have all that digital information on a server, local, or do they, is it, do they have access?
All cloud-based.
It's all cloud-based, so they have access to hold us hostage?
I can't answer that, but yeah, I'm sure. I feel better about these guys than the
No, I'm talking about the laser issue.
oh,
Oh, no, if there's a migration period, so they let it, you're allowed, I think it's 6 months to transition all of your documentation over into your new system.
Okay.
And I'm sure you've looked at whether or not that they met their end of all the deals. I'm sure an attorney here has looked at that. I mean, if there's any issues there where they owe us money, I'm sure the staff will look at that.
Right, no, we're not there yet, so that, I just wanted to bring it up, because that is something that I'm working on right now, is trying to find an alternative to Laserfish.
right. I would entertain, thank you, by the way, I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers.
I move that we approve the vouchers.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion, jumping? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good. Mayor and council reports, anything for the greater good?
I did mention it to Carolyn. I ran ran is a generous term. I participated in the 5K for St. Patrick's Day, and there were multiple people that commented on how nice First Street and then going over the ease of getting down that path. They would like that path to be a bit more worked on once like the actual going down the hill. Yeah, but the First Street, I had multiple people tell me that they really thought that it was good work. So yeah, anyway, that's my very good.
All right,
Mr. Bulldog was an extreme success. Is anybody there? But we'd like to thank Mr. Sork for showing up for the second year in a row and bidding against him constantly until he outbids me to death. It was awesome. And the boys soccer team won 11-0 last night. They haven't scored 11 goals in 3 years.
Whoa.
The girls team beat Cascade Lock Casper Rock in both games of the Devil High.
In the softball, yes, they did.
So anyway, that's again great good.
Yes.
Us, but
Community aspect.
all right. Anything to be added to next month's agenda? All right, we have the opportunity for additional public comment for items that were already discussed today.
Good.
Mary?
Thank you. Going to rain on Carolyn's parade a little bit.
Oh.
Mary. And I have talked to her about this, and we did a telephone thing. First Street, where the new sidewalk is. You all may have driven it. I've driven it a few times. I don't care for the engineering. I think the engineering is wrong right there as you come in from the wide street and it narrows. And the reason it narrows is because there's a 6-foot sidewalk that comes right to the curb. So the person going east has no oh crap lane to consider if it's a spatial thing, but it's also a safety issue, I think. Because the other side of the street, even though the lanes are the same width, the oh crap lane on the north side gives you that extra option just in case somebody crosses the center lane, which people here tend to do. So you have no option but to hit the curb if somebody going west is coming at you and there's something. So, you know, I don't know why it was just a 6-foot sidewalk. It could have been a 4-foot sidewalk and then plenty wide. And you would have had that room for that little extra lane that you have on the side of a road to help just in case somebody comes across the center line. I think it needs to be fixed. The curb has already been hit. And I can see why it was, but you know, it's the same as that dang curb at the end of Columbia. Everybody hits that curb if you're going west. On the east side, the curb has been made into, what do you call it, that flat
Handicap
ADA
access, yeah.
thing. And I don't know what is on the other side. So, you know, in the future, when we're doing this kind of engineering, we have to account for human spatial acuity, because some people have less of it than others. But when you're on the road with a car that weighs 2,000 or 3,000 pounds, you need an option, and hitting a curb really can wreck your life. So, and somebody else's too. So I you know, go take a drive and see what you think about it. I really do think the side, it should have narrowed and there should have been an extra little space there that you would have just in case. And thank you, Carolyn. I'm going to miss you and that, and thank you for all you've done for our city. And that I think you've done a great job, and welcome to Cody, and that good luck in your future endeavors.
Okay, next up is executive session. I would appreciate a brief break. Then we'll come back and go through the preamble of our executive session. So if you guys would like to stretch your legs for 5 minutes or so or less, because it's getting late.
5 minutes.
I would appreciate a chance just to stand up and such. But then we will be entering into executive session.
Carolyn, do you need some help getting some stakeholders together?
You're still
or-
recording, correct?
Well, you
Still
could
recording.
ask
until we
Cody
get to
as
the
our
preamble.
project manager for that front lawn, but I think that, we're gonna
I
focus
just
on the
speed up a little
businesses
bit
and not
and
quick
Yeah.
over that. So I don't, unless,
No,
yeah,
there's about 4 or 5 of them. That's all.
yeah, there's not too many of them, and then,
You don't get.
should loop in SDA, as well. Chat with them about it.
Okay.
So, yeah, they, provided 4 options, so
Yeah.
they weren't able to do it on both sides, but one side, and then the other side, and then
I appreciate you coming.
with and without turning lanes.
Uh,
So,
Going down,
So no.
left diagonal on the left side, parallel on the right. Yeah.
and then the opposite, the diagonal on the left. Yeah, so both.
Anyway, I just, yeah.
Parallel.
I know it's not.
I think the consensus was they wanted, going down, they want it on the left side.
We have options
Yeah.
to evaluate, so.
Yeah, that's when I talked to Yeah, I talked to Terry, I talked to,
Back, we could be on there. We can all do it. I don't know what that's all.
talked to Walt, actually.
Yeah.
So we will.
I remember the name of the guy. Who's the postmaster? I didn't know his name.
Really want to pitch that on here?
And then Bonnie, talked to Terry, and then talked to
Yeah, I was just.
the gentleman. who has a big river
Oh, yeah,
mouth.
that's stupid.
Justin.
But yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome, like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
It's just funny.
I think we could,
Most of the
how are you, Rick? Oh, I'm not going anywhere.
Good. Really don't do a lot.
With the parents.
Oh, yes, oh, yeah.
And you're thinking of
Yeah.
bringing that.
Good family, you know.
So now.
There's, again, from up here, there's, like, you know, just, there's like, there's families that I know that I've always. I know, you guys are here. I don't, you know, it was, we had. You know,
As far as.
and we all kind of, that. You know, it's nice to be able to, like, they did a good, like, yeah, really good.
We're just looking for the standard, yeah.
It's nice to have your.
16 inches.
Impossible.
Hey, Ben.
Even in the draft. It's not really.
I know.
You know, it's something.
This is for.
I'm not gonna.
Yes, we can certainly.
But thank you for
So.
chatting with me.
Yeah.
How are you, Mr. Breckman? I'm glad to hear that.
I gorge on
I'm wonderful. Meet you with a side of tea.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not changed.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So is Tiffany sticking around for tech? Is that what?
Oh, no.
Yeah, get out of here. Watch out for the door though, okay?
You don't have to tell me twice.
Good night, Tiffany.
I'm Graham, so.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay.
You see that set out here?
I'm
I
just
saw,
a little bit thin.
my cup was out, the water was hot lying on here, it was so great.
It's so hot.
It was ready. I appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
See ya.
So the Angels have the what?
I mean.
Names of the box. It's just a, it's a
So-
Doctor Who.
If there's a need,
Names of the box, so, yeah.
for me to.
If you watched the show, it was one that I, and while I was watching it, I saw it. And I worked today, and it's
Oh, yeah.
I wore to work, and then I came here, so that's the shirt I got to wear here.
Through high school. Yeah, yeah. We'll see you around, Jeff.
No, that's fine. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah. There were, process of.
Speaking of, where's my mug for $100? Tiffany's down there, or Tabitha's down there stealing all my money back at.
Just gotta go there, man. You don't get a mug.
I paid him $100 to get a mug.
You get a bigger, you get a bigger glass every time you go.
No, the mug club?
I prefer it that way.
Okay.
Having to come up with a mug every time.
Oh, did you?
All right, shall we?
Okay. Thank you, Ray.
So with that in mind, do you have my signing stack so that when this is all over with, I can begin with the signing? Or should we do it tomorrow? Ooh, we have a date tomorrow, don't we?
We do, but we do need Dave's sign.
It's an 8 AM date.
Is it now?
Yeah.
I can work that.
You want that?
It's actually the
Then put it out.
last bit.
He's gonna get stuff for Davis sign.
Ah,
Already out there.
but the checks?
That's my hope. That was the instruction.
What are you
He's
looking
done.
for?
He
Okay.
signed up.
Yeah, we're all done.
Okay.
No, we're well underway. All right.
Dave needs that though.
Dave needs what?
The check.
Checks are done.
No, Dave's
Signed
here.
them already.
Yeah.
Not our first rodeo. Okay, up next, we have executive session. City council will convene an executive session under RCW 42.30.1101I to discuss potential litigation. We will enter into executive session for 10 minutes. So that will, we will come out of executive session one way or another at 8:39. Sounds good, 8:39.
It's no direction.
Proceed as
no
discussed.
decisions were-
No decisions were made.
We are out of executive session. There are no decisions, help me.
No decisions were made.
No decisions were made. Staff will proceed as directed.
As discussed.
Discussed. I think that I could try and murder that some more. I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 8:40. See, Ben? Sign, vouchers. Well, it's all because you guys were ready for us.
Oh, Lou.
It was awesome.
The,